So, you are looking for the Orchestra Hall guide, huh? Now that's awesome, because in this guide, you will learn the first phase mechanics, the incoming attacks that you will face, and how to properly act during certain attacks to survive until the end. But before we dive in, let me give you a warning. If you don't have any kind of knowledge about this raid, you need to pay very close attention during this entire video. Not only do you want to learn how to play, but this specific stage is something that you really want to know what you are doing, because you will be repeating this stage a lot to grind for the title Concerto, the upgraded version of Freed Shadow, which increases your damage if you awaken while having this title equipped. So yeah, you don't want to mess things up in this stage, considering that you might also upset players who do want to spend the stage for the title or even for the full raid run. This stage has two phases. In this video I will be covering the first one. You will fight against the conductor, pretty much the orchestra coordinator. Thanks for the recent Serpentium Raid improvements, this raid has become much easier to do. But still, you need to pay attention to how the boss behaves and avoid the attacks. The conductor has pretty much 4 attacks that you need to take care of to not get hit by them, because every time you get hit by any of his attacks, you will stack a debuff called Agony of Creation. Once you get 5 stacks of that, you can potentially heal the boss, increasing the amount of time it takes to take him down, which is not fun. So please, pay attention to his attacks pattern. Once you get the first stage, the best situation is to get the boss to teleport for the first line right up on the stage, so you can keep him there for the most of the time. This way, if you get the buff by getting hit 5 times, you can release your energy on the bottom lines of that stage, preventing him from healing. If you get hit 6 times, you won't get the chance to choose where you release the buff, which will cast the healing energy exactly where you were hit for the 6th time. There are 2 ways of energy release, and you also gotta make sure of what type of energy release you will get. If you get the violin bark right under you, it means that you will release a straight energy line of healing power. And if the boss gets hit by it, you will heal his HP. So it's better strategy to go to the bottom of the stage to release the debuff. Once you get a bass mark under you, you will release a continuous circular energy that can heal the boss if it touch him. So once again, you better keep the boss on the upward lines of the stage while releasing your debuff energies at the bottom. So this way you can handle the debuff pretty well. Although it is expected that you should at least avoid getting hit by the boss. The first attack that he will do, it is his close combat combo, where he swing his baton and hit allies that are near of him. This attack is pretty much avoidable, so you just need to take care of not getting in his way before he do this attack. The boss will keep teleporting or jumping to get near of you and your allies, so you should spread out once he begins attacking. His second attack, it is a straight line of energy release, which he will highlight with a red line. If you are using stone apples and fighter's potion, you need to take care, because even if you jump 1 line down from this attack due to your bigger size, you can get hit by this attack. So be at least 2 lines down to avoid this attack, just to be safe. His next attack is his circular energy release around him. He will highlight with a red sphere around him before he attacks, signaling that you should distance yourself from it. After 1 second, he will release electricity around his body, so it's basically about getting a safe distance from this attack. His next attack, it is the sphere resonating energy increase, where he will get his flute and create a constant energy release with a skill tier marked on his body. If you hit him with that skill tier that is marked on his body, the energy release will retract, making it smaller and easier to avoid. The attack can begin with blue energy, which will constantly keep growing, and then switch to the red energy, where you can attack the boss to reduce the radius of that attack. If the attack begins with the red energy, you can reduce the radius, so when it switches to the blue energy, you can safely distance yourself from the attack before it explodes. Yeah, this will deal massive damage if it hits you around the stage, so it's better to reduce the radius of the attack with the marked skill tier if possible. If you just want to skip this attack and keep attacking the boss, you better have a revive buff on you or use a revive from a title that you have equipped. But be careful, every attack that you take from the boss will stack the debuff. So for the attacks, that's no big deal. The boss will constantly rotate between those attacks, so just get used to them and know how to deal with them, and you are pretty much safe to go. Now comes for the mechanic part. And please, pay close attention to the explanation because this can be complicated. Not because it is hard, but because failing the mechanics can result in a team wipe, ending the raid stage. The boss will do just 3 different mechanics with increasing difficulty each time. He will do 3 mechanics in total before going to the phase 2. If you get the mechanics correctly without failing, the boss will fall and enter the grog state, increasing the damage taken while being completely still, giving a good damage dealing window for you and your allies. If you fail one time during the mechanic, the boss won't get into the grog state after finishing the mechanic, but if you fail twice, it is pretty much a team wipe. The first mechanic will happen at 250 HP, followed by the second mechanic at 150 HP, and the last one 100 HP. Now we will talk about the mechanics, and please, once again, you should pay extreme attention to this part, because it requires a lot of attention from players to properly do them. Since this is a stage that you will be spamming to get your Concerto title in the future, you really want to do everything right. If you are having trouble understanding the mechanics, you can rewatch this as many times as you need until you properly understand how it works. Let's begin with the timing mechanic. The boss will move away from the stage and speak this text before the mechanic. This one is very simple, but requires a good timing to cast your skills before the yellow line hits your spots. The boss will spawn many skill tier marks around the stage. You and your allies should move to those marks to cast their proper skills. The blue mark requires casting a tenacity skills, those skills around 100 MP. The purple mark requires a strength skill, which is around 200 MP, and the red marks require casting bravery skills. There will be a yellow line that will come from the left to the right, moving across the map all the way until the end. You need to cast the proper skills required on each mark just slightly before the yellow line hits the skill tier position. Basically, you should move to the skill tier marks and cast the skill just before the yellow line hits the skill mark position. This mechanic is the easiest one, so of course we are going to start with this one. If you do it right, the boss will return to the middle of the stage in his groggy state. If you fail, a big explosion will happen around the map. The boss won't get into the groggy state once he returns, and the explosions can kill you and your team, so you gotta be careful. You can see here what's going to happen during the mechanic, so you can see how to do this. The next mechanic that he can do, it is tuning. Tuning requires a good observation skills while being able to follow the notes sheet perfectly. The idea behind this mechanic, it is very simple, but you need to pay attention to do this right. The notes will be generated from the right and will travel to the left, where there is a red line at the end of the stage that will consume the notes that pass through this line. Your goal here? You need to follow the note sheet that will appear on the upper section of your screen. There are just 3 notes: the crotchet, the quaver, and the semi-quaver, but don't worry, we won't use their musical names in these mechanics, so we will have to name them as 1, 2, and 3. The one note will be this one. You can think of it as having one leg to make it easier to visualize. The second note is this one, which you have one curve, and the third one has 2 curves, so you can call it 3. Once the note sheet is up and the notes begin to generate, you should try to make the right notes hit the red line on the left side of that stage. Not every note generated will be the one required on the note sheet, so you need to change them or destroy them. In this case, you should hit the notes with your command attacks, or you can use the F1 to change the note. If the note is 1, hitting that note will generate the second note. If you hit it again, the second note will become the third note. If you hit it again, you will destroy that note. So keep this in mind if you need to destroy notes. I personally use the command attacks to change the notes, but if you find yourself using Fighter Potion during this mechanic, I would recommend you using a F1 button on your keyboard to change the notes if they are close to each other, because in this situation you can hit 2 or more notes with 1 command attacks. Once you hit the right notes at the red line, a blue sphere will appear on that note, meaning that it is correct. So you just need to continue hitting the other notes to follow until you finish the entire note sheet. It may sound easy, but it is not. If you fail one time, the boss won't get into the groggy state once he turns, and a big explosion will happen around the map. If you fail twice, it is pretty much a team wipe and raid fail. If you feel confident, you can do this all by yourself, but you can get help from your team by having someone behind you to destroy the wrong notes that get past you. If you do this entire mechanic right, the boss will return and enter his grog state once again. Now, for the performance mechanic. This mechanic also needs attention to do this properly, because this time you need to know exactly where your spot is. Let me help you understand this mechanic. In the note sheet, you can visualize that there are 4 lines. Notes will appear in different lines with different shapes, like I previously mentioned in the tuning mechanic. The notes 1, 2, and 3 will appear again. It is good to memorize those numbers because when you take a look at the stage, you will notice how the whole stage has sphere notes everywhere. The first thing that you should do before moving on the stage is to look at the number that it is above your character. This number means your turn for the note check. Yes, in my case here, I am number 1. So I will be the first one the boss will check, so I better hurry up and position myself on the correct note. You can see that I position myself in this place and I will tell you why. Pretty much, you see 4 lines of notes with 3 columns repeating until the end of the stage, as types 1, 2, and 3 notes. Looking at the sheet here, the first note it is the 3rd note in the 3rd line, so I position myself at the 3rd column at the 3rd line to get this right. Once the boss checks me, he will go to the number 2, which is one of my teammates that got the number 2 above his head. Checking again, the 2nd note it is the 1st note in the 2nd line, so he should position himself at the 2nd line in the 1st column. If everyone is alive, there will be 6 numbers to be playing the sheet, but you can see that I placed the number 5 below the number 1 and the number 6 below the number 2. Why did I do that? Well, now I'm going to explain you something about da capo. Da capo is the yellow line, and it will appear in the 3rd mechanic, when the boss gets to the 100 HP. These features will appear in just 2 mechanics, the tuning and the performance mechanic. Every time that you see this yellow line, you need to go right back at the beginning of the sheet, restarting all over the consequential numbers. In this case, the number 5 ally, because there are just 4 notes to check in this first moment before hitting the yellow line. Once the number 4 player gets his note correct, the yellow line will disappear and the number 5 should position himself on the first sheet note, while the number 6 should position himself at the number 2. After number 6, it comes to the number 1 player again, who needs to position to the 3rd note and the consequential notes ahead. Like I said, This doesn't happen until you hit the final mechanic, so you have to understand what this is before doing the performance and tuning mechanics, because if you miss your position, there will be a red X mark on the note sheet. If someone fails again, it is pretty much a team wipe, failing the raid. I will show you a little bit how this works now so you can see how you should position yourself. So for the first phase, that's it, no more trouble than that. Once you defeat the conductor, you will be going to the second stage. But I will be leaving this part for the second video. I hope this guide helped you, and if it did, you should share it with your friends who are having trouble understanding the raid. So please, if we get enough people to understand the raid before actually playing it, it will be a better experience for everyone, and I'm sure of it. I will be signing off for now, but don't worry, I will see you in game.